When people talk about the most influential video games ever made, Grand Theft Auto 3 is almost always in the conversation. Released back in 2001 by Rockstar Games, GTA 3 wasn't the first open world game, and it wasn't even the first Grand Theft Auto, but it was the game that completely changed the industry. It took the series from a top-down, arcade-style crime game and transformed it into a third-person, sandbox experience that would eventually lead to the games like Vice City, San Andreas, Grand Theft Auto 4 and of course, Grand Theft Auto 5. It's genuinely hard to explain to younger gamers just how revolutionary this game was at the time. Before Grand Theft Auto 3, nothing quite offered the level of freedom and detail in the fully realised 3D city. After more than 20 years though, does it still deserve all this praise, or has modern GTA simply left it behind? Well, let's find out. So starting off with the story, well, Grand Theft Auto 3 takes place in Liberty City, Rockstar's fictional version of New York City. You play as Claude, a career criminal who, during a bank robbery, is betrayed by his girlfriend Catalina. She shoots you, leaves you for dead, steals the money, and escapes with another member of the gang. Claude is arrested, but before reaching prison, the police convoy transporting him is ambushed. During the chaos, he escapes alongside fellow prisoner 8-Ball, beginning his journey through Liberty City's criminal underworld. Unlike later GTA games, where your character constantly speaks and interacts with everyone, Claude is completely silent through the entire game. It's actually a really strange decision looking back on it now. I've spent many years playing iconic GTA characters like Tommy Vercetti, CJ, Nico Bellic, and of course Michael Franklin and Trevor. Having a protagonist who never says a word feels incredibly odd. Apparently Rockstar want a place to project themselves into Claude, but honestly I think later games proved giving your main character an actual personality was definitely the right approach. For me, it's one of the few negatives this game actually has. That being said, the supporting cast is absolutely brilliant. Almost every crime boss, gang leader and contact you meet is memorable in some way. Whether you're working for the Leone Mafia, the Yakuza, corrupt businessmen or dangerous cartel members, Liberty City always feels alive with different criminal organisations all fighting for power. The missions themselves gradually move you across the city's 3 islands as you rise through the ranks of the criminal underworld. It's a fairly straightforward revenge story, but one that works really well and laid the foundation for every GTA story that followed. So looking back at the graphics, well obviously this is a game from 2001, so you're never going to mistake it for something like GTA 5. But honestly, it still doesn't look half that bad, and some of the animations and things that happen in and around the game are actually incredible, such as people being robbed or fire engines turning to put out fires. That's stuff way ahead of its time. Now I should mention that I originally started playing the original PC version with a graphics mod installed. The mod itself was incredibly easy to install and honestly makes the game look a lot better than the OG version. The main reason I downloaded the mod, however, was just to get the game working, as with many older PC ports these days, they just don't work straight away, and with modern PCs they just don't interact well, so you're almost always having to download a mod for them. But let's get back to the graphics. Well, I'd argue even parts of it look as good, if not better, than the definitive edition, and there are even more advanced mods out there that make the game look even better. Unfortunately though, installing mods introduced a couple of weird problems that I had. Anyone sitting inside vehicles during cutscenes just became completely invisible. Some textures occasionally failed to load correctly and you could see through the map. It's nothing game breaking, but it's definitely noticeable. Eventually I made the decision to purchase and actually move over to playing the definitive edition, and honestly, I think it was the right decision. You don't have to mess around with installing patches, everything works straight away. The lighting is much more improved, reflections look nicer, and the aiming is even being modernised with a proper weapon wheel that you get in most modern GTAs. And the best thing above all is that there's finally a full map with little mini-map waypoints that you can set. It's a really good overhaul of the game. Now look, overall, despite all the criticism it received at launch, I actually think today it's the better way to experience Grand Theft Auto 3. I'll throw up a comparison now so you can see what the definitive edition looks like compared to the OG version. As you can see, it is actually a marked improvement, even compared to the, like I say, I've got a mod pack installed for this GTA 3 one, so it even looks better than what it's meant to look like, but the definitive edition I think stands out a lot better. Like I said, the lighting and everything just makes the game pop a lot more and just makes it look 10 times better in my opinion. Now the gameplay is where GTA 3 completely changed gaming forever. It was the first GTA to fully embrace the behind the character third-person perspective that every future GTA game would build upon. For one of the first times, you could freely explore a huge city with a great perspective. You could steal pretty much any car that you came across, you could cause just complete chaos, or you could simply ignore the story and drive around for hours watching how the NPCs interact with each other and just watching the city go on by. Even today, that core gameplay loop is incredibly addictive. What's funny is that despite not playing this game properly for years, I still know Liberty City almost like the back of my hand. That just shows how memorable Rockstar's world design really is, and it probably stands for any GTA, to be honest. I could probably find my way around the map without any maps whatsoever. The missions themselves are surprisingly varied. You'll be stealing cars, delivering packages, escaping police, assassinating targets, planting bombs, taking part in even street races. It's amazing just how many mission ideas Rockstar already had back in 2001. A lot of them are similar vibes that you get in any GTA game now. And that said, there are definitely some parts that haven't aged particularly well for this game, and ultimately the missions are all on a bit of the short side. Most of them you'll be completing within a couple of minutes, maximum maybe 5 minutes if you have to drive far. You compare that now to something like Grand Theft Auto 5, where the missions are so big, like the bank job ones, and you're taking 20-30 minutes to complete them. Yeah, it's a big switch. These are kind of short and sweet. I mean, they don't get like boring or repetitive, but they're just not the most exciting, to be honest. One of the things that I really don't like in this game actually is the driving. It just feels very, very, well, incredibly light. Cars just are almost too light and very floaty in how they drive. It's surprisingly easy to just roll vehicles over simply by clipping a curb or taking a corner too aggressively. Vehicle handling generally just lacks the weight that you'd expect nowadays. Like there's nothing to the cars. Still, considering this was Rockstar's first attempt at building a fully 3D open world driving model, it's understandable, and to be honest, it's not the worst driving mechanics I've ever played in a game. So yeah, not the worst, but definitely not the best. And another thing that has a similar vibe to that is the combat, and it's one of the areas that unquestionably has aged. It's the shooting, honestly, and it's pretty damn rough. Weapons just lack accuracy. Some require you to stand completely still before firing them. The range isn't great on most of them, and enemy AI can just absolutely melt your health in seconds. They seem to have aimbot, unlike you. They're incredibly accurate, and like I say, just often just start shooting the second you enter their line of sight. Meanwhile, you're desperately trying to line up shots while dodging bullets. I just genuinely think Rockstar knew this wasn't the strongest part of the game, because the vast majority of missions that you do focus on driving rather than the extended firefights. Whenever a mission did become combat heavy, it usually became one of the hardest missions in the game. Thankfully, again, the Definitive Edition improves aiming quite a bit. It's still nowhere near the modern GTA standards, but it's definitely easier than the original game. Now, I've touched on some of the slight issues and problems with GTA 3, going back to it now, but the biggest problems, despite how revolutionary GTA 3 was, there's just a few major issues that would become very, very noticeable when I played it again. The biggest one, well, simply there's no checkpoints. Now, that's not that much of a problem most of the time, but if you fail a mission where you're forced to drive all the way back across Liberty City just to start again, it can become slightly frustrating. Then after finally completing a difficult mission, well, you're going to need to drive back to your save house just to manually save the game, as the original had no auto saves. Thankfully, Definitive Edition does have quite a few, so if you do fail to save it, there's potentially one going to be there. Now personally, growing up with games like this, it doesn't really bother me that much, but I completely understand why modern players would find it frustrating. And as for the second issue, well, the next one was navigation. The original version didn't even have a proper full screen map. You were expected to just navigate almost the entire way using the mini-map, which for short journeys is fine, but when missions send you across multiple islands, it becomes genuinely annoying to try and remember when you're actually going and what's the quickest route to get there, especially when it's a timed event. Again, the Definitive Edition fixes this completely with proper maps and waypoints. And then finally, well, it's the biggest issue of them all, and something that actually does get rectified in the later GTAs, and that's the vehicle damage. Cars catch fire just ridiculously quickly. Even in the Definitive Edition, this is still a problem that they just decided not to kind of buff the health of cars. And especially once the Mafia becomes hostile later in the game, things get even worse. Their shotguns absolutely destroy vehicles. There were moments where I'd suddenly drive through Mafia territory and get blown up within seconds. It's actually one of the most frustrating parts of the game. I saw a review, lots of reviews to be fair, on Steam talking about getting one-shotted, and I wondered what they was talking about at the start. But like I say, as soon as the Mafia turn, and it's mainly the shotgun that does it, you can just get one pumped and blown up. I can't remember if shooting a petrol tank instantly blows up a car on this, but I feel like it must do with the way that I was getting just absolutely melted immediately. So like I said, I ended up playing both versions of this game for, in fairness, quite a bit of time in the original, and I completed the game on the Definitive Edition. And this might be a bit of a hot take, but after spending time with both versions, I actually do think the Definitive Edition is worth buying today. I know it had an awful launch, everyone remembers the bugs, the technical issues, and especially the horrific rain effect that was there. But most of these have now been patched. Compared to the original, you get better lighting reflections, some improved aiming, a modern weapon wheel, some proper checkpoints and quality of life improvements, a full map and navigation system, and most importantly, no need to install any unofficial patches just to make it work on your modern PC. You can just plug it in and play. So for me, it's just simply the way better way to experience Grand Theft Auto. Now before I move on to the reviews and the final verdict, I want to talk about a top tip for new players who have either never played Grand Theft Auto 3 or are going back to try and play the Definitive Edition to hit achievements. So if you're planning to go for that 100% completion, well, the one piece of advice that would save you a massive headache is to just complete as many side activities as possible before progressing too far into the story. Things like taxi missions, emergency services, the police missions, hidden packages, vehicle challenges, the races that you have to do. And the reason is simple. Later in the game, most of the gangs become permanently hostile. But most importantly, it's the Mafia, who I've mentioned before, who, when you drive through their territory, becomes just an absolute nightmare because of the shotguns and just destroying your car pretty much instantly. I actually attempted a mission called the Turismo race, which is actually an achievement to get it under 180 seconds, I think it is, to complete the race. And I just found myself just trying it about 30 times because I just kept getting blown up while I was racing around the city, because part of it makes you do a loop around the Mafia territory, and you genuinely have to look out for the Mafia people and run over them, otherwise you'll get one shot and blowed up. It just became so frustrating. So yeah, top advice would just be get these activities out of the way before they turn hostile. So looking back at the reviews, well, when GTA 3 was launched in 2001, like I say, it completely changed the gaming industry. Critics absolutely loved it. It won countless Game of the Year awards and quickly became one of the best-selling games ever made. Even today, it's regarded as one of the most influential games in history. The original PC version isn't available on Steam anymore, which is a shame because one advantage of owning it is that you still get the original licensed music that many people remember growing up, and you get to experience kind of what it was like before you had all these niceties and the harsh reality of having a Grand Theft Auto with, like I say, no map or waypoints. Now on Steam, the OG GTA 3 sits at overwhelmingly positive, whilst the Definitive Edition sits at mixed, and for once I actually disagree with this, and I think it should be the other way around. I get that the OG has like a ton of great mods that you can install and play, but in terms of just being able to pick up and play the vanilla game, well then the Definitive Edition just massively outperforms the OG for me. So look, my final verdict is, well, Grand Theft Auto 3 certainly isn't perfect. The shooting hasn't aged, and driving feels floaty. The lack of checkpoints can be frustrating, and cars catch fire way too easily. And, well, Claude remaining silent still feels so strange, especially with everything Rockstar has done since. But none of those issues change what the game achieved. This is the foundation that built modern Grand Theft Autos. Without Grand Theft Auto 3, there probably wasn't going to be a Vice City, no San Andreas, no Grand Theft Auto 4, and certainly no masterpiece of Grand Theft Auto 5. It completely redefined what an open world game could be. Looking back today, I still think it's a fantastic experience, especially if you're interested in gaming history and enjoy Grand Theft Autos. And while I originally started with the modded PC OG version, I would actually recommend most new players simply picking up the Definitive Edition and playing it that way. It's easier to get running and add loads of quality of life improvements, and despite its rocky launch, I genuinely do think, like I say, it's the best way to experience Grand Theft Auto 3. It may not be the best GTA anymore, but it absolutely remains one of the most important games ever made. Now if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to drop a like and drop a subscribe for more content like this, and check out some other game reviews that I've done on the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one.